Perception often becomes reality, and this is a frailty to our human condition. We read, we're curious, we learn something, and then we refuse to move off it. I'm a Trump guy. Therefore, you don't care how bad he butchers a press conference. You're on his side. You're deeply embedded. If you can't stand him, I can't stand that guy, then he could pass interesting legislation. He's not to blame for something, but you're going to blame him anywhere. You're embedded in that position. That's why it's important. I try to do it all the time. I make this mistake too. Don't get deeply embedded in beliefs. Be willing to get new information and move off it, because otherwise perception will become reality. And I'll give you an example. Cam Newton. The perception watching him in college and watching him up to his MVP year is that he's a great football player. The reality is, since the MVP season, he's not as good as Tyrod Taylor. And that's why the LA Chargers didn't want him. My friend Bucky Brooks writes an article, the Chargers should go after him. No, they shouldn't. No, they shouldn't. Tyrod Taylor wins more. Yes, wins more than Cam since Cam's post-MVP season. Tyrod Taylor, no drama. Tyrod Taylor, 100% healthy. Tyrod Taylor, low maintenance, mature, a very easy distributor of the football. The Chargers just had Phillip Rivers throw 20 picks. They are looking with their roster, which they plug the only holes in free agency, guard and left tackle. They want a distributor without drama. They've had drama. It's called Phillip Rivers. Big plays, big interceptions, not as reliable. They don't want that. I'll give you a perception versus reality number. The last 46 starts for Cam Newton and Tyrod Taylor. Remember, you loved Cam in college. It's embedded. Number 1 pick, embedded. MVP season, embedded. It's never been the same quarterback. In his last 46 starts, Cam Newton is 23-23. Tyrod Taylor, with the Bills and the Browns, 2 rebuilding teams, is better. 24 wins, 21 losses, and a tie. Cam Newton, since his MVP season, 65 touchdowns and 45 picks. Tyrod Taylor, with the rebuilding Bills and the rebuilding Browns, 54 touchdowns and 20 picks. Completion percentage, Tyrod Taylor, 62. Cam Newton, 59. Passer rating, Cam Newton, 82. Tyrod Taylor, 90. People are so embedded on Cam because he was so fantastic at Auburn. And he's the number 1 draft pick. And he's big and he's strong. And early in his career, the arm strength. By the way, I talked to 2 executives last week that said they think something's messed up with Cam's arm. He doesn't throw it the last 4 years like he used to. But if you look at Cam Newton, the perception is he's amazing. And the perception is Tyrod Taylor can't really play. The reality is Cam post-MVP is average. And Tyrod Taylor post-MVP, same 46 starts, is an average quarterback. Cam and Tyrod Taylor are the same guy. One's bigger and stronger, makes more mistakes, less accurate, more drama, hard to coach, and we don't know his health. The gap between the two is tiny. And if coachability matters and if health matters, I could say Tyrod Taylor gets the edge. But the Chargers look at it and think, we got all these players. We just want distribution without drama. We've had drama. It's called Phillip Rivers. We're over drama. So, again, you get in bet. Also, Tyrod Taylor is perceived to be a good mentor. So if the Chargers draft a quarterback, Tyrod's the kind of guy that would help out. You know, they signed him to a contract. He'd help out. Cam probably not as great there. Cam also could never be a backup. He's just too big of a celebrity. Tyrod's been a backup. But it's funny, isn't it? Cam Newton, last 46 starts, with what's perceived to be a better coach, Ron Rivera, and absolutely more Pro Bowlers and better players than the Browns and Bills, Cam's got worse numbers. When you get embedded in something, deeply, deeply embedded, and you're not willing to look at new data, You're missing reality. The perception of Cam up here and Tyrod down there is simply not true. Let me shift to this. John Lynch, I covered him in Tampa. I worked with him at Fox, and now I root for him with the 49ers. So there's these stories. Man, I'm telling you, when it comes to this virus, there are people that either see opportunities and people that see nothing but obstacles. John Lynch said, no excuses. There's no excuses. Work harder. Lynch went to Stanford, was initially a quarterback. They told him he couldn't be a quarterback. He became a safety and an all-pro. My theory on what's going to happen in the draft is GMs, the bad ones, are people that see obstacles, they'll make excuses. The good ones see opportunities, they'll flourish. Here's what I find funny about all the guys in the NFL complaining about the virus and what it's creating. They had the combine. There was an actual combine. They had the Senior Bowl. All the teams went to it. They have 3 to 4 years of tape on players. As long as we're talking about technology at some point today and about what we're facing, phones in America, last time I checked, still worked. And oh, by the way, it's called FaceTime. This is something scouts didn't have in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. They didn't have it 6-7 years ago. FaceTime. Use it. This virus, it's amazing to listen to the excuse makers. Stop it. There are people that are born with more anxiety. They're born, it's innate. It's in their DNA. But the idea that every team in the league went to the Senior Bowl, every team in the league has 4 years of tape. Alabama players tend to leave early, maybe 3. Every team got 45 interviews at the combine, each interview 18 minutes. That's not enough. American Idol, they give you 15 seconds and decide you got it or you don't. Every NFL player I ever ask, and I ask this regularly, when do you know if a draft pick can play or not? They're like 2 practices. 2 practices, you know. Guy's got it, guy doesn't. Technology has never given scouts from FaceTime. That's just one example. It gives scouts opportunities they never had. Ask your kids, if you don't know how to use it, how to use it. I don't want to hear excuses. If you got 3 years of tape, maybe 4, 45-minute, 18-minute interviews at the combine, FaceTime, phones, the Senior Bowl, and you're still struggling with it, you're a bad GM. Get over it. There's either roadblock people, obstacle people, or opportunity people. Watch the smarter people in this league flourish. It's not that difficult. It's the new normal, as Joy said. It's just the new world we live in. Deal with it. I would say this about the NBA. I was reading Outkick the coverage yesterday, and they talked about Las Vegas as a place where it's got an abundance of hotel rooms, Thomas and Mack Center, where UNLV played forever. I don't think it's crazy. One of the things about college basketball and why March Madness, I think I said this the day before it got canceled, that's about the masses. People fly in from all over the country. You got 380 Division I teams. They cut it down to 68, and then there's play-in games. The NBA has always been a very exclusive sport. Okay, there's 450 players. Many of them fly private jets. The teams all own their own jets. Make it even more exclusive. Go to Las Vegas, one city. You have 16 teams. These hotels have 70 floors. You can give each team a floor or 2. You have one food service company. You don't have team doctors from everywhere. Instead, you have one set of doctors. You have one arena that plays 2 or 3 games daily. You make the most exclusive sport. There's only 12 guys, really, that play on an NBA roster, right? 15 total, 12. Actually play. I don't know how I'll ask Gottlieb about that, but I think it's 15 total on the roster. It's the smallest rosters, the fewest players that matter. You don't have to have a 4th bench coach. You play in one arena. You stay in one floor. You have one private jet. And by the way, as the playoffs advance, you go from 16 teams to 8 to 4 to 2, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It's why I've said they should consider shuttering the first round, and you just go to 8 teams, 4 in the West, 4 in the East, 8 teams, 1 city, 1 arena, each have their own floor at 1 hotel, 1 food service. I don't think it's crazy. As far as playing basketball with no fans, again, It's the new normal. You deal with it. There's a lot of things happening in my life and your life that are odd. That if you'd have told me I'm going to live a certain way a month ago, I'd have said you're out of your mind, and I can't go to a restaurant. I can't go to... All of my things have been turned on their head. I go to the health club every day. Done. I go to a restaurant 3 or 4 times a week. I eat out a lot. Done. I can't leave my house for long stretches. Done. My family's in this house. I'm over here. I got to spend all this time now with my daughter, which is great, but she's not at school anymore. None of my kids are in college. So the idea that the NBA would have to have games with no fans is not that big of an adjustment. I do understand the league is about style and performance. That's why I love it. There's style to it. Performance matters. It's harder to perform like I'm doing right now. I'm sitting in a small room by myself and I can see Joy on a computer and I can barely make out Goulet. I like being in a big studio. I like having 6 or 7 people on the floor performing. Just sitting and talking in a room by myself, I'll be honest, it's weird. But I do think the idea of having a centralized location makes a lot of sense.